Cool. Testing, sorted. So, um, had a couple comments on some of my other YouTube videos relating to the Sonny modding. For since I've already tried recording this once through adding text instead of talking, just realized the end product wasn't really sufficient. So given this one now with my voiceover, just so that a better idea can be gained of basically how it works. So, guess to start off with, we've got all of our files stored in a folder. You can choose whereabouts you want to store it. It doesn't really matter as such. We've got the Flash player, which you'll be using to actually play your Sonny game. You've got your JPEGS Flash free compiler, decompiler. If I could talk today, that would be great. And you've got your Sonny zips, which will contain the games stored. So all of which will be in the description. So yeah, that should be all good. So first off, what you want to do is just unzip your Sonny game. So I'm going to choose Sonny 2 as the example here. And you can see inside it's got all of the files that you need. From here, we're going to open up the JPEGS free Flash decompiler. It opened on my other screen. And you'll get a UI that kind of looks like this. It'll probably ask you to open up the file. So you just want to open up the game.swf from the Sonny folder that you've unzipped. From here, it will pretty much look exactly like this. With a bunch of folders separating all of the necessary modding equipment. So the ones we're interested in are the scripts folder. This can get a bit much. I've pretty much self-taught myself all of this, so the one we're interested in specifically is the frame 42. This is pretty much where all of the modding files are going to be, at least for Sonny 2. The other Sonny game, Sonny 1, has a different sort of frame that you'll need to look into. And in all of these do action scripts contains each of the sort of separated aspects of the game. So as we can see here, this first one is relating to the music setter. So this determines what music gets played when. We've got the buff, what looks like the buff appearance. So this will be like your sprite changes, what color it changes to when you're poisoned. As you can see, there's sort of a change in effectively what seems to be your transforms. So that's all good. The one below that, we have the projectile. As you can see, the speed, bolt time, etc. But the one that we're going to be looking into mainly, as per this video, is the sixth one down, and that is the abilities. As you can see here, under move count, we've got every single ability in the game. Important to note as well, all of these abilities are pretty much every ability in the game, which includes the enemy abilities. So if we, for example, we can do a Control F and go to Vic for Vicious. We've got our abilities, so one for each level, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. But on top of that, we have the enemy's ability, which is separated and you can tell because it's next to other AI type abilities like Infect and Bite. So it's not just your own abilities you can change. So if we go back to Vicious Strike, our set of abilities, you probably saw there that we have 4 of them, and that's for every individual level of the ability. So Vicious Strike, we have a bunch of variables, and these variables change basically the elements of that ability in question. So we've got, it's a physical damaging ability. It does 1.1 as hack move 2. This is something that you might need to basically note down a document for, otherwise I can provide one in the description. Each one of these hack moves represent a different variable. It's a bit annoying that you have to decipher them all, but effectively hack move 2 is strength. You can see this if you go to the Sonny website. Also a helpful thing to pin in your bookmarks, by the way, if you're going to be doing a lot of modding. You can see here it hits with 110% of the caster's strength. So if we go back to the JPEXS, you can see it's 1.1, 1.2, 1.34, like the multiple percentage. So we've got another sort of set of things here. We've got the cooldown of 1. We've got the focus requirement, and each one of these also represents a different sort of aspect of the ability. So we've got like the let's have a look. Yeah, the focus requirement, the cooldown, of which I'll also make a note in the comment just to either that or post editing, just to explain what each individual one of those are. So similarly, like this, I can't overstate how important the wiki is, because if you're ever unsure about like what a certain variable is, you can run it by. So as you can see here, there's a crit chance of 3.1 on this attack. If I was looking at this, I probably would have no clue what I'm looking at. But as I can see here, every ability has a stat of 3.1 here, hence hack move 7 is the crit chance. You can probably see here as well that there are a bunch of variables relating to the sprite animation. So this is a melee attack with that color, that animation, and that color of animation. So if we say take destroy, let's find our version of destroy. We take the star blue from it, and we go back to vicious strikes. This is probably something annoying that you'll notice. If you click edit script, it will shunt you right back to the top of the screen. So just make sure you're looking in the right location. So we're just going to change that to star blue for the first level. And then we're going to take, what do we think? Let's take attack stab. And we're going to put attack stab on our second level of vicious strike. Just for the sake of testing, let's do these 2, 3, 4, 5. Give it a save. This can take some time because it's just decompiling and recompiling all of the scripts. So once this goes through, you'll just need to click save in the top left, and that will pretty much do everything for you. Just going to run that through now. Cool. So once you're done with your modding, you'll want to close it down. Open up Flash Player. Go to where you have your sort of game and SWF file located. I've got it basically stored as default, so it should happen on your first run of it. So it stores in memory. So if we, let's just create a new one. as a test. Overwrite that. Biological. We don't want a tutorial. It just makes testing a bit more annoying. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, so we put 1 point into Vicious Strike. We do a test. Be a complete idiot and forget to add it to your taskbar. That is classic. So, yeah, I haven't played this in a while, I'm not gonna lie. So, testing. It's all good. So, we give Vicious Strike a go. You'll notice the sprite changed of the attack animation to the destroy, just because it'll be easier to test once we leave the fight. If we instead put 2 points into Vicious Strike and save, and then do it, it does the stab animation. So you can see it's relatively straightforward. You just pick and mix, really. You just find an ability that you like the look of. You take that element from the ability and just paste it into the ability you want to use. And all of the sort of details like the damage are superfluous. They're inside the abilities themselves. So what can be annoying is locating the file again when you've sort of finished modding. So cool. So now that we've given a basic rundown on how the abilities work, the sprite colors, the animations, how the damage is formulated, and what basically how to find the ability using the wiki page. Now it would be best to look into the buffs. So the buffs can be located in one of the files further down. If you're struggling to find it, it's normally the one after this while loop at the bottom. So if we go into this one, down here, we have all of the debuffs and buffs listed in capital letters. These are the ones that you saw inside the ability under the hack move. So one thing you can do if you're ever struggling to find one of these sort of buffs or debuffs is just go to the action ability that it references and just do a copy paste into the search field. It's always what I do. We're going to take an ability that has a fairly straightforward buff that we can apply to ourselves. So let's take Adrenaline, for example. Similarly, with all of the abilities, we've got Adrenaline 1, 2, 3, 4, or actually 1, 2, 3, because Adrenaline only has 3 abilities, like 3 levels. You can probably see Hack Move 13, Adrenaline 1, Adrenaline 2, Adrenaline 3. There are different buffs for how strong the adrenaline is. So we'll just take Adrenaline 1 for now. I'm going to do a search. So it's a lightning based one. This tab here, this lightning, poison, etc., that's the color in which it turns up on the buff bar at the top. And again, we have a bunch of variables that we need to decipher. So if we go to, for example, Adrenaline, integrity, animalism, Adrenaline, here we go. So again, the wiki is going to be your best friend when modding this game because you can get lost with all of the variable names. It's always good to keep track. So it increases the strength amount by a percentage and then regenerates focus by a scaling percentage. So we can see it's 15%, 20%, 25%. So hack move 3 is clearly the strength improve. So if we increase that to 50%, 75%, and then 100% for each of the scales, and then it increases focus by 7, 10, and 13. So that would be this minus figure. If you, say, took away the minus, you'd start losing focus. So we can keep that. Let's just keep it a stable 10 for all of them. And then we have hack move 16, which is 3, and it's 3 for all of them. So that would be the buff duration. So we're going to increase this to 6 as a test. And just because we can, let's change the sprite color to physical so it appears red on our taskbar. Give that a save. Cool. So if we give it a test now, so this should be better. Yeah. So if we apply this to us now, you can see 6 turns of 10 regenerating focus and 50% adrenaline. So on the buff bar here, it's taken effect. It correctly labels it as 50%, and it's changed to the physical outline with 6 for turns. So everything from a gameplay side of things is working as expected. We can use destroy and get the nice 50% increase to our damage. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to do modding for Sonny. It's just the extra effort you want to put in. The awkward thing comes next. Okay, so if you are completely content with modding the game and not seeing, like, having it sort of, shall we say, nicely arranged, professionally made, etc. If you're just doing it for fun, you can pretty much skip this. However, if you do want to go that extra step and add in a bit of polish, this is what you're going to have to do. So you notice for the adrenaline, you saw it in the demonstration, the debuff, or buff should I say, text was changed properly. However, the actual action text inside the sort of skill selection screen did not change. That is because the debuff or buff uses a different variable. In adrenaline, it uses this. Buff descript hack move 2 times 100 plus buff descript 7. It's a jumbled mess, basically. One that you'd be forgiven if you couldn't remember. Let's minimize my Discord. So we're just going to have a look at this side by side to show you where it's getting this information from. If we load up the test again, we use the ability, drag this along. So this unit's strength is increased by 50% and is also regenerating 10 focus. Healing and damage received is increased by 40%. You can see the plus times 100, so that's where it's getting the 50% from. So buff description 1 is effectively the part before hack move 3 times by 100. So hack move 3 times by 100 is literally just the 50% point on that text bar. So buff description 1 is this strength, this unit strength is increased by. Where is that located? Well, that's where we go into frame 41. It decompiles the scripts, and this is where we have all of the text in the game. So in here, we find adrenaline, and this is where we find all of the abilities sort of parts. So description 1, this unit strength is increased by blank. Then underneath the orcs 2 is percent and is also regenerating blank focus per turn. So you can see what's going on here. Every single time there's a pause, we add in one of those descriptions from that other script. So as a whole, this is how the ability will read. However, we need to make up the parts. This is why in the game, the buff works fine, because we haven't changed anything that would cause the text to break. All we've changed is the variables, and the variables automatically adjust because it's using one of the predetermined hack moves. So the hack move for strength, hack move 2 times by 100, it will automatically adjust, so nothing will break. If we go into the adrenaline, just to give a rundown. So, adrenaline, you can see here, buff description 1 plus hack move to 100. So it's effectively wherever you want a buff description or the next text to come in, you put a plus. So this is where the gap would be inside that other text document. It's relatively straightforward when you know what you're looking for, but as you can sometimes see, it's not always that easy because we have a thing to look out for. You probably noticed before that the text didn't update for the actual skill screen. And that is because we have two different texts for adrenaline. We have the buff, but we also have the ability itself. This is the German section, so let us actually go back to English, shall we? So here we go. Dispels blank poison effects and causes the target to receive and deal 40% extra healing. Also temporarily increases focus regen. So this is where the complexity comes in. There are two different text documents, or text sort of variables for the same ability. You've got the one for the ability itself and one for the debuff. So if we go into the actual ability file and we go to adrenaline, that text here is where the skill gets changed. So effectively you can think of it as the ability itself is what's in the skill section, whereas the buff is what appears on the buff bar. So just as long as you're aware that you'll also need to update this to 50% to reflect the sort of change in stats, you should be all good. Because of course, it can't reference a variable outside of its own script, so it has to do it manually. So for every single time you change something with a buff, just make sure that the sort of related ability is also changed, just so that your skills menu is accurate. As I say, like, this is pretty sort of mundane, basically checking. But if you want a polished product, and if you want to sort of show it off and stuff, it's always good to make sure it's not buggy or it's missing elements. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So it follows the same structure. It uses the text element. The missing gap is replaced by the variable in question, but instead uses a manual change. So this would be your focus. So it also recovers 7 focus per turn and increases strength by 50%. So yeah, just something to keep an eye on. Cool. So one last thing, post-editing Adam here. So this is the document I'm going to be putting in the comments and the description of this video, just so that you have a better idea of what you can change, basically all of the variables. There's of course going to be some missing, some variables that you can play around with yourself, but we've got all of the scaling, all of the damage types, etc. You can change it from like physical to a fire damage attack, etc. So, yeah, where to take this? I guess the main thing to draw on is the fact that because they're two different scripts, technically the action script and the debuff and buff scripts, it uses different hack moves. So if you're expecting to change the instinct scaling on, I don't know, like Terrify as an example, one of the psychological abilities, if you're going to be using hack move 4, that won't be hack move 4 in the debuff script. It uses a different hack move. It basically shunts them up one. So strength move 2, hack move 2 is strength scaling for the action script. Hack move 3 is strength modifier for the ability script. So I just wanted to add that in at the end, just because I noticed post editing that it wasn't something that I covered. But yeah, make sure you watch out for that as well. There's a couple pitfalls, but once you've sort of familiarized yourself with the layout of JPEGs, once you've got the sort of flow down, it is pretty straightforward to make mods. As I say, the only complex thing and the only thing you really need to remember is making sure that text and documentation is pretty much kept up to date. So yeah, I think that's everything. So let me know if you want me to create another video relating to the Sonny modding. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff I've missed, plenty of stuff I can elaborate on. And yeah, I'm not good at this YouTube shit. Bye.